Ready, kiddo? Getting started. Clear. It is so beautiful outside.
Once again, we journey down the winding trails where every curve carries the weight of untold stories. In this second episode, we find ourselves not just riders, but seekers, on paths where the wind whispers forgotten secrets and the shadows of the past linger just out of reach. Join us as we explore the unknown, where every mile brings us closer to a tale yet to be told. This is The Kid and the Byrd.
Anytime now, light.
Impatience.
Oh, here we go. This way.
So, these two are on yet another adventure.
We just teleported to the 7-Eleven.
Sam Malone.
We like to teleport. Teleporting is fun.
Yeah.
Teleporting isn't a thing.
All right, let me go in.
Yes.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. PSA sugary drinks aren't healthy for you.
3, 2, 1, boop.
Ah, yes, The Kid and the Byrd. This stowed.
Help. Oh, sorry, guys.
Unexpected.
I won't say it out loud, but my inner voice is saying...
Dumbass. The Byrd and the Kid stand at the trailhead, maps spread before them like ancient scrolls. The Byrd traces a finger along the winding paths, a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. This one, he says, steep hills and sharp turns. It'll test us. The Kid, eyes gleaming, nods in agreement. She's ready. They exchange a glance, unspoken but understood. It's not just the ride, but the adventure ahead, the story waiting to unfold with every twist of the trail. The journey begins now.
How you feeling, kiddo?
Feeling great. I'm alive. Beautiful day. See ya.
You ready, kiddo?
Yep.
Let's go.
So, where were we again? Ah, yes, sausages. Huh?
Tiny little sausages rolling in the sand.
I knew you were gonna do that.
I present to you The Kid.
So, just a little fun fact for you guys. Did you know that there are more female sea turtles being born these days than male sea turtles? Because the gender of a sea turtle relies purely on temperature. The colder the weather, male sea turtle. The warmer the climate, female sea turtle.
I like turtles. I like turtles. What the frig?
Ew, I don't like that.
Okay, enough tomfoolery. Back to the story. The Kid and the Byrd, Part 1. In the still mornings of West Florida, when the air clung to the land like a slow breath, two figures could often be seen winding their way through sleepy streets and dusty trails. Locals knew them as the Kid and the Byrd, though no one could recall how or why. The Kid, barely a teenager, carried an aura of quiet intensity, always watching, always imagining, her eyes searching the horizon for things only she seemed to see. The Byrd, older and quieter, followed beside her, his movements deliberate, as though each step, each turn of the wheel, was a note in a larger song no one else could hear. Their connection was unspoken but undeniable. Perhaps it was the way they seemed to communicate without words, or how the Byrd's steady hand always lingered just behind the Kid, ready to guide, never to control. The Kid was drawn to art, her hands often stained with charcoal, her mind always sketching unseen landscapes and forgotten places. And the Byrd. Well, there was something about him that hinted at a life lived in rhythm. Something in the way his fingers tapped absent-mindedly on his handlebars, or how his eyes seemed to dance when the wind caught just right. Their rides were rituals. At first light, before the world stirred, they would slip away on their bikes. The Byrd on his faithful Bishop 1, a relic of long journeys past, and the Kid on hers, eager for the thrill of what lay beyond the horizon. The roads they traveled stretched far beyond the town's borders, winding through endless flatlands and dense patches of forest, disappearing into the hazy distance. One day, the kid came across something, a map, crumpled and forgotten, half buried under a pile of old papers in a second-hand store. It wasn't like any map she had seen before. There were no names, no compass, just rough sketches of places, a winding path, an old tree with twisted branches, and what looked like the outline of a cabin hidden deep in the woods. "We should find this," she said quietly, holding the map out to the bird. He studied it for a moment, then smiled, a knowing, almost mischievous smile. "Looks like we're going for a ride," he said, kicking off the ground. They set out early, as always, the Florida sun barely rising, already promising heat. The road stretched ahead and they followed the vague markings on the map, leaving behind the familiar streets. They rode through fields where the tall grass brushed their legs, past rivers where the air grew cool, and into forests where the canopy above cast long, shifting shadows. As they ventured deeper, the trail grew narrow, overgrown with roots and vines, and the trees began to close in around them. The bird's eyes, though calm, were watchful, scanning the edges of the path. The kids' excitement grew as they neared what could only be the place on the map. The trees thinned out, and there it stood, a cabin, forgotten and reclaimed by the forest, its roof sagging under the weight of years, its windows dark. The kid slid off her bike, her feet barely making a sound as she approached the structure. The bird followed more slowly, his hands resting on the handlebars, watching her, his expression unreadable. "It's like something from a dream," she whispered, her voice barely carrying through the stillness. She touched the rough wood of the doorframe, feeling the years embedded in its grain. Inside, the air was heavy with dust and the scent of old, untouched things. Furniture sat askew, covered in grime, as if the place had been abandoned in a hurry but left undisturbed. The kid wandered through the rooms, her fingers tracing the outlines of objects left behind, her mind already sketching the stories they could tell. Old papers, books with faded covers, and strange symbols etched into the wood. The bird lingered in the doorway, his eyes catching on the strange marks carved into the beams. "You think they left this for us to find?" the kid asked, her voice carrying a note of curiosity mixed with something deeper. The bird shrugged, but didn't answer. Instead, he stepped inside, his gaze lingering on the small, peculiar details of the cabin, as though recognizing something faintly familiar. "We'll come back," she said, already planning their next visit. The bird just nodded. The cabin had become more than a project. It had become an obsession. Each visit revealed more strange carvings and symbols, older than the trees themselves. Time felt different here. Sometimes the kids swore the light didn't change for hours, like the sun itself lingered. One afternoon they ventured deeper into the woods. The kid, sketchpad in hand, felt a pull toward something unnamed. The bird followed, always watchful. The deeper they rode, the quieter the world became. The sun, once bright, barely filtered through the thick canopy above. Then they found it. The tree, an enormous twisted tree, its bark black and cracked. The kid froze, breath catching in her throat. "It's the tree," she whispered. She had drawn it before, from imagination, yet here it stood, real and imposing, as if conjured from her mind. The bird approached cautiously, brushing his fingers against the bark. The air felt charged, alive with a hum that vibrated through the ground. The kid dropped to her knees and began sketching, her hand moving as if guided by something beyond her control. But as the lines formed on the page, the bark in the drawing twisted and revealed faces. faint but unmistakable. Faces of people she didn't know but somehow recognized. The bird's breath hitched as he glanced at the sketch. "Kiddo, where did you?" "I don't know," she said, her voice trembling. "It just happened." The hum grew louder. The bird's fingers, still resting on the bark, felt a pulse, like the beat of a heart. He jerked his hand back. "We need to leave, now." But the kid stood, her eyes fixed on the twisted branches. "Look," she whispered, pointing at the base of the tree. The bird turned and froze. There, carved into the roots, were their names. His name, her name. Weathered and ancient, as if they had been there for centuries. "What is this?" the bird muttered, tracing the letters with trembling fingers. The kid stepped back, fear creeping into her voice. "It's like we were always supposed to find this, like it's been waiting for us." Suddenly the ground shifted, roots curled and twisted, awakening from a long slumber. The bird grabbed the kid's arm, yanking her back as the earth gave way beneath the tree, revealing a dark, gaping hole. The hum grew deafening, a pulse of energy shaking the air. Without warning, a gust of wind ripped through the clearing, sending leaves flying. The bird shielded the kid, his heart racing. He had felt this before, the electric charge, the pull. But where? His mind scrambled for answers. Then, as suddenly as it began, the wind stopped. The tree stood still, lifeless. The gaping hole closed as though it had never existed. But the carvings, the names, remained. The bird took a step back, pulling the kid with him. "We can't come back here," he said, his voice tight. The kid looked at him, her wide eyes filled with understanding. "What is this place?" The bird had no answer. They had stumbled into something far bigger than them. Something that had been waiting. Something that had their names carved into it long before they had ever found it. As they mounted their bikes, the wind followed, whispering their names as they rode. Back at the cabin, they sat in silence, trying to make sense of what had happened. The bird strummed his guitar absent-mindedly, the notes hollow. He felt the hum in his bones now, just as he had felt it beneath the tree. The kid, sketchbook open, stared at the faces in her drawing. She didn't recognize them, but deep down, she knew one thing for certain. They were theirs, and they had always been there, waiting for the kid and the bird to come home.
Thanks for riding along with us on this adventure. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more trails and tales. We've got plenty more to explore, so join us on the next ride. Until then, keep pedaling and stay curious. See you on the trails.